Greetings to you. Thanks for being with us. Monday, first day of the week, back in the saddle. Kath, good to see you. How was your weekend?
It was very nice. I'm struggling a little bit with the technology here.
Yeah,
Studio.
the tools of the trade oftentimes.
It's like I never put my
headphones on.
right.
Things have changed, right? The old days used to be like these big, thick, heavy duty things. Now we're wearing little strings.
Right now it's all
What is this string theory?
string theory.
Yeah.
It's quantum physics.
Right.
Do you need me to explain it to you? Because I can't.
I can't either, but I put my headphones on and they always get tangled up and I go, oh, this must be string theory, or it's just my headphones getting tangled.
String. Well, you know what? I was going to make a comment, and then I realized that I know so little about it that whatever comment I was going to make was just about to be so stupid.
Right. And I was remiss to even bring it. Kath, tell me about...
Can you tell me about string theory? Who asks that?
And that wasn't in the pre-show meeting in your office.
It wasn't in the pre-show meeting in your office
Right.
either. We had two pre-show meetings, and neither one of them string theory was brought up.
I mean, in 15 seconds or less, could you just sort of fill me in on what you think string theory is all about there, right?
Good grief. You want to ask me about anything else
No,
that
it's fine.
is incredibly complex that we could talk about in the afternoon drive program?
I was just sitting here enjoying my iced tea. That's about my level of involvement.
Well,
right?
That's
all I got.
actually impressive.
You went to a wedding this weekend, did you not?
I sure did. Congratulations to Sophia and Nick Pizzuti.
Congratulations.
The brand new Mr. and Mrs. Beautiful wedding. Saturday is one of the most gorgeous days of all time.
Wasn't it, though?
It was like the humidity was 31% or something like that. Bright, sunshiny day.
Lovely.
We were hanging out in Oakland. The wedding was at Heinz Chapel, and we got there early, so we just walked around Pitt's campus. You know what hacked me off?
Oh, no, what?
Because I'm a Pitt alumnus.
Yeah.
You can't get in the Cathedral of Learning. You can't walk in. You can't get in the Commons Room
It's closed?
without a staff or student ID.
I used to walk in there all the time.
Do you know
just
why?
kind of hang out. Why?
Because COVID.
Oh, because it ruins everything.
Now what?
I don't know. I mean,
What's the big deal? What?
you want to go to Burger King in the basement?
There's no. It's not Burger King anymore.
It isn't.
No.
Oh, good for
But what?
I don't know.
The ceilings in the Commons Room are about
800
60 feet high. Why are we? Why is?
Because COVID ruins everything. Really. So
we
you
had
could
a guest.
around.
We had a guest with us who'd never been to Pittsburgh.
All excited to see the cathedral.
You know, Hogwarts fan had heard about Cathedral of Learning. I said, well, no one better to show it to them than me, who spent 4 solid years in there, and we can't get in the door.
Mm-mm. Was there a guard, or is just everything locked up?
There's a guard.
I don't know, just how we are.
And so I was tempted to go in. It's I'll just go in and talk to the guy, and then my whole family was like, "Don't humiliate his mother."
Right, please. Like you're going to pull some strings. Hey, listen, I'm an alumni of this university. We paid for this place.
Listen, that's what I was going to say.
No, that would have gone really well, right?
See, so you're on their side.
Of course I am, because you don't want to. Plus, you're all dressed up, right? You're all like in nice clothes. You want to get angry at somebody? The guy's just doing his job. It's like, way up top.
I mean, I don't need you to criticize me. I didn't do it.
Just
all of a sudden, you're like criticizing my intentions.
No, I'm not criticizing.
I'm getting in trouble for the things I thought about doing now. That's how bad it is.
It's the age we live in.
Good
just
grief.
how it is. All right. You want to look at some news?
I would like to.
All right. I mean, without further ado, please, Kath, give us the top 4 at 4.
For Monday, June 6th, 2022, number 1, another weekend marked by gun violence across the country with 13 mass shootings in the U.S. since Friday. The latest CDC data reveals a nearly 35% increase in firearm deaths nationwide from 2019 to 2020, with guns accounting for 79% of all homicides in the U.S. The country also recorded its most annual gun deaths ever in 2020, more than 45,000. Interesting story in CBS today, though, that profiled the disconnect, John, between what the public says they want and support and what policymakers actually act upon. The latest CBS News polling reveals that a majority of Americans favor a variety of gun restrictions, including universal background checks at 81%. 81% of people polled. A federal red flag law, 72%, and a nationwide ban on the AR-15 at 62%. But of course, we know that at this point, up till now, nothing has happened legislation-wise.
People are talking, though.
People are talking.
There is some conversation.
Number 2. Elon Musk threatened to terminate his deal to buy Twitter in a letter accusing the company of not complying with his request for data on the number of spam and fake accounts on the social media platform. Mr. Musk said Twitter has downright refused, I tell you, to provide the data necessary for Mr. Musk to facilitate his own evaluation of the number of spake and spake? That's the difference. That's the combination of spam and fake.
Can you spake?
Spake. You have fake accounts.
Couple of some spakes.
Yeah, if Elon uses that in future, I would like some kind of acknowledgement.
Right.
Maybe he could throw me a couple bucks.
We can spake it.
You'll remember that in April, Twitter accepted his $44 billion bid to take over the company and go private. He also has 19 investors. Did you know that?
Nope.
Yeah, I thought it was just him, but he has 19 investors who are backing up his deal. Number 3, a new study of an AstraZeneca PLC breast cancer drug showed it cut the risk of tumor progression by half for people with the most advanced form of the disease. That is super terrific news. It cut the disease progression in patients who took it in the study for an average of 9.9 months, compared with 5.1 months for those who were given chemotherapy. It's an interesting, the mechanism of the drug is interesting. It seeks out a particular receptor, which leaves healthy tissue alone and delivers a discrete but powerful dose of chemotherapy right at the site.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it contrasts with traditional chemo, which can't differentiate between tumor and normal cells, and so it ends up
micro battle.
Everything, yeah. It's really interesting. And number 4, Britain's Queen Elizabeth II made a surprise appearance yesterday on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to close out her Platinum Jubilee celebration. She appeared up there. Prince Charles was there, her son. Prince William, her grandson. Camilla, the wife of Prince Charles, was there. Also, Catherine, Kate Middleton, the former Kate Middleton, was there, and all of their 3 kids were there. Super cute. And the Queen was in green and looked terrific while everyone sang God Save the Queen. Elizabeth is 96 years old, has been forced to scale back some of her appearances at the Platinum Jubilee, which marked her 70 years on the throne, because of mobility issues.
She's 96.
Prince Charles made a nice speech later in the day, and that is your top 4 at 4.
Yes. He called her Mummy.
Mummy.
Hey, Mummy the Queen.
Yes, he said, I can't remember how he started it. He said, he didn't say your Majesty, Mummy. Which I liked very much. Did you see the pre-recorded video with the Queen in Paddington?
I did not.
Oh my gosh.
No.
You did. It's so great. The Queen is sitting at a table on one side and Paddington Bear is sitting on the other side. Did you read Paddington?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
You know the story?
I do.
Okay.
I mean, I recognize Paddington, but it's not something I'm really connected with.
Oh, it's really great. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a very cute idea.
Excellent. Very nice. Well, congratulations to the Queen. Long may she reign.
It's the longest serving monarch in British history.
We will take a quick break, step away from the Queen to the White House. That's next. Greg Clugston, SRN News. It's The Ride Home, a Monday edition here.
101.5 WORD.
This week on Through the Bible, we stand at the deathbed of one of the Bible's great leaders, Joshua. Joshua and his troops have finally conquered Canaan, and they're entering a time of prosperity and peace. Joshua suspects after he's gone, they'll likely drift from God. Join us for his final words of warning, words we should heed as well.
Through the Bible, this evening at 9 p.m. on 101.5 WORD.
Last year, over 100,000 people in the United States died from drug overdoses, and alcohol-related deaths are rising. This has to stop. At Recovery Centers of America, our local team of experts is dedicated to treating addiction and healing families. With cutting-edge science and medicine behind us, Recovery Centers of America takes a holistic approach to treatment, addressing the source, symptoms, and contributors of substance use and co-occurring mental health disorders. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now for immediate help. You don't need to travel far to access world-class care and family support services. Our inpatient and outpatient centers are located near you, so you can achieve recovery close to home. Plus, we offer outpatient telehealth services. If you are suffering and don't know where to turn, we want you to know that you are not alone. At Recovery Centers of America, we will answer your call 24/7. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
Creation Festival 2022 is your summer destination. June 29th through July 2nd at Agape Farm, Shirleysburg, PA. Featuring Zach Williams, We the Kingdom, Bethel Music, Newsboys, Dante Bowe, Red, and many more. Creation Festival, a tribute to our creator. Come for the day or the entire event and go home changed. Compassion International presents Creation Festival. Get half-off tickets now while they last, exclusively at wordfm.com/creation.
Blue Star medicated ointment gets 5-star reviews from our loyal users for fast relief of the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
Blue Star soothes insect bites and fungal infections.
It really works on the summer rashes I get every year.
I had psoriasis on my elbows. Blue Star worked wonders.
Amazing stuff. Smear a bit on and the itch is gone.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
What is a warrior? At Portersville Christian School, it's more than a team name. A warrior is taught to serve, to passionately model the love of Christ toward neighbor, community, and world, to learn as they cultivate academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning from kindergarten to senior year, and to lead through Christian character and integrity. Are you a warrior? Discover Portersville Christian School just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, where warriors are made, at ourpcs.org.
To the White House we go. SRN News White House correspondent Greg Clugston joins us. Greg, thanks for coming along as always. How are things in the nation's capital?
Hey, happy Monday, guys.
Thank
John
you.
and Kathy, good to see you.
You as well.
Doing well, thank you.
Good to see you, Greg. So a lot going on, as it always is, inside the Beltway. So let's talk first off about if there's any process on gun control legislation. Before you came on the air, we were talking about a piece on CBS.com today about how there's a disconnect between the percentage of Americans who think that gun control legislation should be passed and how important that is for the actual legislators. I guess that remains to be seen based on what ends up happening. But talk about what the conversation is now.
Sure. The conversation and the focus is really centered on the Senate side of Capitol Hill because Democrats have a large enough majority in the House that they have already taken actions on what Democrats and the White House describe as common sense gun safety legislation. But obviously in a 50-50 Senate and the need to have 10 Republicans move over for a 60 or more vote threshold in the Senate, that's the real trick. And so, yes, there are negotiations, discussions going on in a bipartisan way between Republicans and Democrats. A lot of what we're hearing from those discussions on the Hill deal with really measures that are at a much lower level than what President Biden laid out, for example, last Thursday night in his evening speech to the nation, where, he talked about wanting to ban assault weapons and large magazines for those types of assault rifles. And then on down the list he went. And so he laid out a very broad and a very specific list of wants and demands, really, from his political and policy perspective. But that's not what we're seeing at all on the Senate side. We're looking at some measures that would be incremental compared to what the president was calling for.
Right.
Okay, let me break in and go back to that CBS News story today, because it says that 81% of people who responded to a CBS News poll were in favor of universal background checks, 72% in favor of a federal red flag law, and 62% a nationwide ban on AR-15s. Now, obviously, if those percentages are as high as CBS News says they are, those are a lot of Republicans that are weighing in on that and saying they're in favor of it too. And yet their elected representatives in the Senate, you're saying, are the ones that are going to hold this back?
Yeah, primarily that, and that's been the case for some time. And I have seen polls similar to the CBS one that you're highlighting there, done by other organizations. And there have been any number of public opinion surveys that have been done over several recent years that have shown the public generally, not just a member, not just a particular political party, but the general public, by and large, in majority numbers, do support some further steps that would be viewed as restrictions on guns in this country, while still maintaining a Second Amendment right. And so it's what's really interesting is this divide that we have talked about for years now here on Mondays when we talk about politics and the political environment in this country. And on so many issues, these issues are divided often right down party lines, and then you have a lot of Republicans, for example, that do have backing from the NRA and the gun lobby, and they are very much in favor of maintaining and securing Second Amendment rights. Yet what the polling shows is that there is support for the Second Amendment, but at the same time, what they view as reasonable restrictions or steps to increase the likelihood that the number of mass shootings that we see and witness as a country would go down. Obviously, they wouldn't be eliminated, but the hope is that they would be reduced in some way.
Greg Clugston is with us from SRN News. Greg, speaking of polls, let's talk about President Biden's polls. How low can you go considering inflation, gas prices, baby formula, war in Ukraine, COVID continuing, you name it, all those things are the ball and chain around him.
Yeah, the list of crises is a long one, and they're very intractable. Some of these issues seem intractable, and at the moment they are. We have seen some progress, for example, just over the weekend, that Michigan plant that was producing baby formula that was shut down several months ago and was a key cog in the whole shutdown and the shortage nationwide that we've seen in terms of baby formula. They have started to revamp production just over the weekend. However, it's going to take several weeks before they can get their production fully online, and then that product delivered to stores on a consistent, regular basis once again. So that's just been one example. Of course, the fuel prices, it seems like every day or two we are seeing either from AAA or from some of the other services that are looking at the nationwide average price of a gallon of gasoline. We're seeing new records, every couple of days by a few pennies, a few nickels, and a few dimes, and it just keeps going up. Yeah. The White House puts a lot of that blame, if not most of the blame, on Vladimir Putin and the war in Ukraine. And while it is true the price of gasoline has risen since the Russian troops amassed along the border and then eventually went into Ukraine, there are any number of other Americans and Republicans and other critics of the administration who would point out that inflation was creeping up last year, well before the Russian invasion as well. So we're seeing a frustrated White House in some respects in terms of the inability to really, even with executive power, there are limits there, as we've talked about before. And the president is smack dab finding out that he's faced with some of those limitations, even if he wants to do a lot to help the American people.
Mm-hmm. Greg, let's talk about what's going to happen later on this week with the January 6th committee. This is something that is very, very unusual. Is it true that this committee will hold primetime television hearings on Thursday of this week?
That's right. This is the January 6th Select Committee in the House of Representatives. And as we know that they have been, for months and months now, have been reviewing the situation from January 6th of 2020, when we saw the riot at the U.S. Capitol, and an effort by some to derail the process of looking at the votes from the 2020 election. I should say 2021 was when the January 6th day, get the correct year there. And so, yes, the short answer to your question, John, is yes, this is going to be a primetime hearing, the first of many. This is not going to be just a one-time only public hearing, but the first one is going to be this Thursday evening. I believe it's an 8 p.m. Eastern time start. And it's not going to be just cable news channels that will be carrying this, but at least two of the three main networks. I haven't heard if NBC has signed on, but ABC and CBS, they plan to preempt their evening primetime programming to televise.
Interesting. So, Greg, how do you understand this? Because the little that I've read says that there will be live interviews, there'll be videotaped things going on, there'll be some talking heads, also the politicians. It feels as though it's like a media production in some way.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that there is a former ABC News producer, and maybe he was even the president of ABC News at one point. He has been tasked with essentially producing this this event starting on Thursday night.
Interesting.
So it's entertainment in some way.
Well, obviously they're tapping someone who has the ability and has a track record when it comes to TV in terms of creating a narrative and knowing when to use video and how to use it effectively and all the rest. So yes, the information that this has come out, that you have this TV executive sort of running the show in terms of from a logistical standpoint, has drawn some, not surprisingly, some criticism from those who are saying that this is just an ongoing effort. Right. To demonize, and that it's politically motivated, and that the media is in bed with mostly Democrats who are on this committee. There are a couple of Republicans, but they're Republicans that have, they say they're conservatives. Someone like Liz Cheney from Wyoming, and she does have a very strong conservative record, but she disagreed when it came to impeachment and Donald Trump, and so she's an outlier now, just like the other Republican as well on the committee. So we're going to see this divide continue. And what will be interesting is to see how conservative media, whether you're talking about Fox News or some of the other outlets, whether they would even show these hearings on Thursday night in prime time, or if they will simply ignore it. And that'll be something to watch as well.
Very much so.
And what does it mean that this is the first of many? Like how often will these be on?
We don't know, although I think just before we came on the air here, I had heard that there is another hearing scheduled for next Monday, and I think it's a 10 a.m. time, so that'll be during the day. So how many, we don't know, but this has been an effort by this committee to say that this summer, the plan was this summer to begin making public and rolling out the information. They've conducted more than 1,000 interviews, issued more than 100 subpoenas. And we're already hearing from some of the members, like Jamie Raskin, a Democrat on the committee. He was saying yesterday that the information that they are going to start releasing on Thursday, in his words, going to blow the roof off the House.
Really?
And even Liz Cheney has said that it's going to be very eye-opening as to what they found. What's interesting is there are a lot of former Trump administration officials, including high-ranking officials here at the White House, high-ranking officials in the Trump administration, that did cooperate at some level with this committee in terms of depositions and sitting down and answering questions for hours. And so there has been this creation of a timeline leading up to January 6th, and then, of course, during the hours of, especially in the afternoon and early evening, as the riot was taking place. So it's going to be interesting to see what this committee has found, and then also what the reaction is going to be. Whether we were just talking about high gas prices and inflation and all the other crises Americans are dealing with in this country. Is there going to be an appetite even for this kind of information when people are worried about having enough money to fill up their gas tank? So there's a lot going on, and we'll have to see how it lands, essentially, come Thursday night.
It's fascinating. Really, it is. Strange days indeed. I mean, I can't remember a primetime hearing. I mean, even shades of Watergate. Just so
that was during the day,
right? I mean, it's not like it's going to be C-SPAN. It's going to be like The View or 60 Minutes or something like that. It's what it feels like. It's a media creation.
Right. And you've got Donald Trump and his allies saying, look, this is a continuation of a witch hunt, to use their words. And there are reports that the former president and a lot of his allies, either here in Washington or elsewhere, are going to be, really working up an effort to delegitimize these hearings, whether it's because they view it's an entertainment, a vehicle, or that it's a partisan attempt on the behalf of Congress. So the other side won't be silent either on this.
Fascinating.
Greg, before you leave us, I always like to, ask.
Here it comes.
Ask your personal investment in a news story
It's
of the
the
day.
curveball. Here we go.
So the New York Times has written an article about 5 food tips they have to help all Americans age well. And so we're going to be talking about that in a few minutes. I wonder if you might have, are there some foods that you're particularly loyal to?
Slim Jims?
In your own personal journey. Are you a believer in protein powder, or do you eat a salad a day, or, ice cream only on holidays, or what's your personal advice?
Cheez-Its.
All of those sound good at some point or another. I guess the short answer is I don't have a short list where I that is a go-to list.
Okay.
I try to eat in moderation, but that means, yes, John, there will be an occasional Slim Jim if I stop, at the gas station on a long highway trip.
Heck yeah.
And that kind of sounds good sometimes.
It does
but
sound
at the
good.
same time, I love salad and I try to eat my fruits and vegetables and all that. But yeah, I would say moderation is the key for me.
What about, have you ever tried the keto thing where you're going to do, all protein and no carbs?
No.
Have you ever tried a low fat or a superfood or anything like that?
I have
Caveman diet for Greg?
I've made an effort to reduce carbs. I am one who cannot live without carbs.
Me neither.
There would be people who might argue with that, but I'm a carb lover, and I've tried to be careful about the intake on carbohydrates, and so I would say that's been a kind of a guiding force here.
Okay.
As I'm getting up in years.
Yeah. Okay. Last question for you. Do you ingest a daily vitamin?
I don't. Almost every day.
What?
I'm not. It's kind of like flossing. I have the effort there,
Right,
but
you want
it doesn't
to.
always come through. Yeah.
You want to. Yeah. John doesn't believe in vitamins.
I do
so
not.
This is.
No.
See, I'm grateful that you've come down on my side of this.
No, I am pro flossing.
and
though.
you can thank my wife, who's an encourager on that point as well.
She gives you a little Flintstone in the palm as you're on your way out the door.
Absolutely. Love those chewables.
Whatever works.
Good to see you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. I mean, if they had Slim Jims, vitamins, I might have more of a jump for that.
Well, that's a disgusting
That's what I'm
thought, isn't it?
saying. No, it'd be fine, I think.
It's Greg
Start your
Clugston,
day.
SRN News White House correspondent.
Thank you, Greg. Always good.
When it's time to replace your roof, siding, gutters, and downspouts, entry doors, and of course windows, you can count on Windows R Us, the area's premier exterior replacement company. This is John Steigerwald. With over 50 years experience in the home remodeling industry, Windows R Us offers repair and replacement for all your exterior home projects. Why pay double with some other companies? Windows R Us will always give you the best price on the best in-class products, backed by the best warranties in the industry, all with zero sales pressure. Speaking of zero, right now get zero interest financing for 12 months and no processing fee with prices set to increase on all exterior products. Lock in your quote today. Schedule a free estimate and inspection today at windowsruspittsburgh.com. You've tried the rest, now try the best. windowsruspittsburgh.com.
Windows R Us. You've tried the rest, now try the best.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text RON to 99799 and I'll send you my free training. I promise I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text RON to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's RON to 99799. Again, text RON to 99799.
Hi, this is Bob Lepine. I hope you're benefiting from listening to Truth for Life with Alistair Begg. Our daily program comes to you by way of your fellow listeners called Truth Partners. It's their monthly giving that cares for the cost of distributing Alistair's teaching to local stations like this one. So today, will you pass their generosity forward? Will you become a Truth Partner and help bring the gospel to others? Sign up at truthforlife.org/truthpartner.
One cup at a time, Firebird's Woodfire Grill fights back against childhood cancer. Join Firebird's Woodfire Grill during Lemonade Days, June 10th through 12th, and all June long, as there are several ways to donate to Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, whether ordering online or dining in.
We are everywhere on your radio at 101.5 WORD FM Pittsburgh, at wordfm.com, the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
Considerable clouds expected for tonight with occasional rain and a thunderstorm towards dawn. We'll see a nighttime low of 63. Periods of rain and a thunderstorm tomorrow. Tomorrow's high 72. Tomorrow night an evening thunderstorm, otherwise mostly cloudy skies with a low of 60. Wednesday will be partly sunny. We'll reach a high Wednesday of 77. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm forecaster Drew Shannon.
Just talking to Greg Clugston from the White House about his eating habits. Here's the deal.
But just something that he probably doesn't expect when he does it.
Well, I mean, he agreed to come with us, so everything's fair game.
After all these years, he knows.
Yeah, he does.
To expect the unexpected.
So you brought up 5 food tips to help you age well.
Mm-hmm.
Small changes in your eating habits.
This is according to the New York Times.
Right.
I asked Greg for his own. He wasn't particularly forthcoming, but...
No, he's kind of shy about it. Small changes, they say, can help lower your risk from many diseases. Here are 5 tips. Avoid processed meat. Slim Jims.
Exactly, John.
Mm-hmm. A number of studies have found associations between eating a lot of processed meats and poor health. A Harvard review found that eating 1 serving a day of processed meats like bacon, sausage, and deli meats was associated with a 42% higher risk of heart disease.
Okay.
Uh-huh. That's a shame.
It is a shame. I
no
love
hoagies
bacon.
for you. You got a hoagie. No hoagie. Do you like a hoagie?
No.
What?
Mm-mm.
You don't like a hoagie?
Mm-mm.
What country are you born in?
You know what? I got to be honest. Huh. I don't really like cured meats like that a whole lot.
You don't
I don't really like it a whole lot. And it's a lot of bread. I'd much rather have a pizza. Much rather have a pizza than a hoagie.
I don't have a hoagie that often, but, when you get a good one, How about the Triangle? You go to the Triangle, Swissville. That's a good hoagie.
Oh, boy, I haven't thought of that place in a long time.
Chrissy, hoagie, yes or no?
Like a buffalo chicken hoagie?
Oh,
yes.
I'll be happy
I've never had a buffalo chicken hoagie.
Where'd you get that?
Just like at a pizza place.
Okay.
I mean, buffalo chicken pizza.
Sounds pretty good.
Bring it.
Also good.
Buffalo chicken hoagie? Okay, avoid processed meat. Eat blue, they say, and other colors. While you shouldn't plan your health around anyone's superfood, there's a lot to be said for eating blueberries. One study found that eating the equivalent of a cup of blueberries a day lowered your blood pressure. Most of us can't eat a daily cup of blueberries, but the lesson is to add darkly colored fruits and vegetables. Blueberries, cherries, spinach, kale to your diet. They are loaded with nutrients. Skip packaged foods, of course.
Well,
right?
of course, so like Kraft mac and cheese is no good.
Yeah, or Lunchables. Who doesn't love a Lunchable?
I know.
Those are so good.
I mean, seriously. Okay, so no Lunchables.
So apparently Lunchables out.
Skip packaged foods. Try to live by the 1 ingredient rule. If a packaged food contains only 1 ingredient, ground turkey, for instance, it's probably a reasonable choice.
Well, it wouldn't be packaged food if it only had 1 ingredient.
Ground turkey. Might be
then
the
you
only
could
one
just
they
buy
could think
ground
of.
turkey. You'd just be buying ground turkey
Right.
then.
What about supplements? Study after study found to debunk the benefit of taking supplements. The best advice, save the money that you would spend on them and invest in a new pair of walking shoes, a gym membership, or a delicious, healthy meal with your family and other loved ones. All those are likely to do more for you than the emotional and physical health than a supplement most likely will not provide.
Well,
boom.
I have,
Get rid of those.
I have to admit that did come down hard.
How about the fish oil?
I don't take fish oil anymore.
Why?
Because it ran out, and then I didn't want to replace it, and then I was starting to doubt its efficacy.
Were you feeling better after you?
No, I just didn't feel any different at all.
Of course you don't, because it's a scam.
Not all of them.
Oh,
I take magnesium when I have headaches, and I feel a lot better. But they're like this big.
Oh,
they're
the pills
gigantic. Yeah.
Well, you get bad headaches.
Oh gosh.
And I have to take
you
2
swallow
of them.
that?
Not without milk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
It's so rough.
You know what I'm into now? I'm into gummy vitamins.
I just read about them because I'm into them too, and they're not as good. I spent a whole bunch of money on them, and I read
Really?
they're not good. I'm so
You
sorry.
mean they're worse than vitamins, which are no good for you?
Well, they have like sugar, and your body doesn't actually absorb them.
What?
That's what it said.
Just saying.
I spent like $60 on them.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
All right,
Broke
fine.
girl. Huh? Bad financial
Now all of a
advice.
sudden we have to tell John, yeah, you were right.
Thank you.
Boy, that's
and I'm right about
uncomfortable
Slim
position.
Jim vitamins as well. If you can do a vitamin, it might as well be a Slim Jim.
101.5 WORD.
Next time on PowerPoint with Jack Graham.
Everyone who loves Jesus is overwhelmed with gratitude, a sense of deep indebtedness for the salvation that we have in Christ.
Tune in next time for PowerPoint with Jack Graham.
PowerPoint tonight at 9:30 on 101.5 WORD.
How much do you have saved for retirement? Now, cut that number in half. That's the impact inflation could have on your retirement. Have you thought about that and how it will affect your retirement plans? If not, you should. Recently, inflation's been over 5%, but even at the historical average of 3%, the value of your savings could be cut in half in 20 years. So what can you do? Start by getting a free booklet from Kurt Knodik at Accurate Solutions Group. It will help you understand how inflation could impact you and show you simple ways to prepare for it. To get your copy of this free booklet from Kurt Knodik and the Accurate Solutions Group team, call or text inflation to 412-515-3555. That's inflation to 412-515-3555. Inflation, you can't stop it, but you may be able to minimize its impact on your retirement. Call or text inflation to 412-515-3555. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services are offered through ASG Investment Management, LLC, a registered investment advisory firm.
The word around town is that Pittsburgh homeowners are choosing doing it right when it comes to their roofing, siding, and remodeling projects.
That's because since 1984, Doing It Right roofing, siding, remodeling continues to set the bar through clear communication and an installation that's second to none.
Doing it right employs only the most experienced professionals to install and oversee your project.
They'll stop at nothing to ensure your satisfaction, doing business honestly, taking no money down and no payment until the job is complete.
Doing it right will ensure that all work is installed to the industry's highest standards. Then back it all up with their lifetime workmanship warranty.
As a prestigious multi-award-winning Owens Corning Platinum contractor, as well as a VSI certified installation contractor, you can't go wrong with Doing It Right.
Mention John and Kathy for a discount off your estimate.
Call 724-NEW-ROOF for a free project evaluation or visit roofingcontractorpittsburgh.com.
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
I truly have never worked in a place that I've loved so much.
Cara Bell, principal at Jubilee Christian School in Mount Lebanon.
The feeling is so warm and open when you walk in. They're very passionate about teaching, passionate about the school, and they love the children. Everybody's willing to step up and help one another. There's just so much love there and compassion for each other, and it's just a nice, warm place to be.
Imagine, believe, achieve. Jubilee Christian School, K through 7th grade, now enrolling for the fall at jubileecs.org.
A vehicle is stolen once every 40 seconds in the United States. The cost adds up to over $6 billion a year. But there are steps you can take to help put the brakes on vehicle theft. Roll up the windows completely. Don't leave valuables in the car. Take the keys or the fob with you. Lock the doors. If you have information on vehicle theft, contact the NICB. Reach us at 1-800-TEL-NICB or visit www.nicb.org. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
There's been a lot of talk lately since the massacre in the schoolroom about releasing photographs of children who were murdered by guns. And say what you will, there's a lot to be said about it, of course. It would be a horrific thing to see. But by seeing the brutality of a child, the flesh just blown away. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. But to see that, would that change hearts and minds enough to do something towards gun legislation?
It seems like it's the same question that you ask about the photographs of aborted fetuses, right? Mm-hmm. The Operation Rescue crowd, and I'm gonna label them that because I can't come up with another appropriate title.
But we know
what we're talking about.
You've seen the images.
People are, standing up in front of whatever abortion clinic you talk about. They're holding placards and they have photographs of aborted fetuses. Now, here's the thing. Those are horrible photographs, but they're actual photographs. And so I can see why people think it's okay to show them because it's the real thing, right? It's not like it's a doctored. You don't have to doctor photographs of an aborted fetus. It's a horror show. So you can just show the real thing and have it be persuasive. This is the same thing. But as someone who has walked by, someone who knows people who have protested in that way in front of abortion clinics, I don't think it's persuasive. I think it's doing the opposite. I think it's turning people. It's repelling people? It's repelling people more than it's drawing them into the issue. But it's still I can still see both sides of it. When I think about kids who are gunned down in a school, would it change the perspective? I don't know if it would change what people think or not. However, Kim Phuc, the napalm girl, whose image was plastered across every Western news source in the Vietnam War.
50 years ago this week.
50 years ago this week. That image changed the course of America's involvement in that war.
In many ways, yeah. I'd agree with that.
Have we become too dulled to images now where that wouldn't happen this time?
I agree. I think that's the case. Like you, I remember walking by an abortion clinic back in the 70s and seeing those, confronted by the fetal images for the first time. And it was shocking. It was horrific. The images are indelible in your mind. It's almost like pornography. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying.
You're not trying to equate the two, but you're trying to talk about the shock value?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The rawness of it. You cannot unsee that, is what I'm saying. Did it make a difference, those images, in stopping abortion? I don't think it did.
I don't think it did.
No, it did not. I believe it did not. I think your mind's made up. Now, I could see why the call to show those images is out there as a cold slap in the face. I would wonder this: your child's been murdered. Now I want the world to see that. What parent's going to do that?
Right. What parent would ever want? Remember when Emmett Till was killed?
I don't remember, but I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right.
So Emmett Till was lynched. Mm-hmm. His mother famously said, "We need the world to see.
We're going to have an open casket.
My baby.
We're going to have an open casket because people need to see what happened to my son."
I believe that changed the tone of things to some small degree. I don't think we're going to see a sea change here. I don't think there's going to be any one thing.
America had to wait 40 years for the perpetrators to come to justice.
Right.
So it wasn't like that was something that changed people's minds overnight. But I have always appreciated her. I mean, you want the truth to be known. So I get that. I think that the problem is all of us and all the images that we've seen.
Too many.
It's too many. It's just the internet has dulled us to whatever it is.
So will anything change? Will there be anything that people will go, okay, you came in at the top of the show and you were citing a CBS poll saying, majority of Americans say, this.
81% of people polled by CBS are in favor of universal background checks. 72% are in favor of federal red flag laws, and 62% are in favor of a nationwide ban on AR-15s.
Do you think any of those have any possibility of becoming reality?
The reason that I used that story in the top 4 at 4 is I was really persuaded by the numbers, and for how high they are, it is shocking to me that it's as difficult a decision legislatively. I mean, we understand that there's a division between Democrats and Republicans on this issue, but if you're talking about a number of 81%, there's a lot of Republicans in that number.
Sure.
So there are a lot of Republicans whose senators are not voting, or at least they haven't voted yet, but are not talking in a way that would please their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like 81% is all Democrats. That's not the case. You know, there's Republicans mixed in there in each one of those: background checks, federal red flag laws, and a nationwide ban on semi-automatic rifles.
Mm-hmm. So I think you look at how people are raised in this country, and I think, there's a lot of division, but I think one of the big divisions in this country is people who were raised around guns. Your family is a hunting family.
Or you're in a situation where your family needs to be protected. Maybe you live, removed from a lot of other people around you. It's not a situation where you can call police if something happens. You need to take matters into your own hands.
Right.
And you need to be responsible for that on a daily basis.
That people who grow up around guns, and I think for another majority of people have no connection to guns, right? Have never held a gun, never shot a gun, have no interest in that. What does that look like in this country? David French is back with us. David's a regular guest on our show. He wrote a piece yesterday, something he calls French Press. It's a Sunday feature of his writing, Against Gun Idolatry. David is the senior editor at The Dispatch and with us now. David, welcome.
Hey, guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure, David, always.
David, not only are you writing for The Dispatch in your French Press segment, but also you write for The Atlantic. And 4 years ago, 2018, doesn't seem like it was that many years ago, but
I know.
So much has happened and so much has changed since then. So talk about the first essay you wrote on guns and what prompted you to write it.
Yeah, so I was asked by The Atlantic to write about gun culture from a conservative perspective. What is it that's appealing to people? And so I got personal in the essay, and I described some threats that my family had experienced, and specifically someone who came to our house demanding to see me, blocking our driveway, demanding to see me, came to our kids' school, drove around the parking lot of our kids' school. Very spooky experience. And so it prompted my wife to get more serious about self-defense. So I walked through that process, what it was like for her to go to the gun store, to pick out a gun, to take gun classes, to get a carry permit, to take self-defense classes. And I talked about how the gun rights movement and the American gun culture at its best is actually quite empowering, quite empathetic, and centered around self-defense. And self-defense, the concept of self-defense is one that places a high value on human life, that says life should be preserved, but in an emergency, it is innocent life that should take priority. So I wrote about that in 2018, and then I was reflecting about it, as we've seen a lot of the debates over these last several weeks, about how things have changed in the gun culture, the world of the American gun culture, even since 2018. And that what has become more prominent is not so much the argument about self-defense, but sort of a fringe movement that was guns as an act of defiance, glorying in the guns that I own, using language that's quite sacred to describe guns or gun rights, the use of guns for intimidation purposes. All of that is really magnified in the last 4 years. And I try to show the difference between gun rights, protecting gun rights as centered around self-defense, versus the view of gun rights as an act of defiance, which can also be intimidating and menacing to other Americans.
Mm-hmm. And so where we are now here in America, right? I mean, there is a really sharp divide from people, like you say, the gun community. It's interesting that you said in some ways empathetic, which you don't normally sort of hear that, but there is a very powerful empathy within that because it is about protection of family and those you love.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're talking about somebody who is afraid for their life, for their kids' lives, because of an angry ex-boyfriend, someone who has had threats at work, or somebody like our family who were somewhat in the public eye, and we've experienced threats as a result of that. And you know the police can't protect you, and you know that you don't have the resources to hire security, to walk around town with a security guard. Learning being able to obtain means of self-defense and learning how to defend yourself can be incredibly empowering. And you'll often meet other people who are in the same boat as you.
Right.
And, and that's what I talk about when I talk about empathy, is you interact with, and my wife interacted with people who'd also faced threats in their lives, and were making themselves primarily responsible for their own security, which is empowering. But again, it is not menacing. It is not intimidating. Mm-hmm. It is not, posing with your gun collection for your Christmas card. It is not, it's not designed to, like the open carry protesters at the Michigan State House, go to your lawmakers armed to the teeth, or outside of their homes armed to the teeth. But there is something very different between owning a gun and centering your gun rights around self-defense, and centering them around defiance and intimidation.
Right. David, until I went to college, I didn't live a day of my life without multiple guns in my house.
Right.
My dad was a gun owner, and I remember as I was growing up, he would periodically show me where the guns were, and then he would show where the ammunition was, which was, of course, in a different place. And he would go to extreme pains to explain how powerful of a weapon it is, how careful you have to be, and what it's for. So I grew up actually being afraid of guns. Not afraid like it was keeping me up at night. I don't
respect them.
I respected them, I guess is what I'm saying. And he basically, we didn't live in a place that was particularly dangerous, really not dangerous at all. It was more for sport, but it was something that I was used to seeing. It was something that I knew about. What we're seeing now, what I see on Twitter, it is a completely different thing. And the fear I feel now, and I'm being honest about it, the fear I feel now is nothing like me being afraid as a kid. Me being afraid as a kid, like you said, has to do with respect. Now, I look at what I see and I think this has gone off the deep end.
Yes. I mean, you're talking about things like people having a tactical lifestyle, purchasing gear for the quote unquote daily gunfight. What daily gunfight? You're talking about people in having a black gun lifestyle, sort of, in other words, a military weapon style lifestyle, a military style weapon lifestyle. It's extreme. It's something different in kind from the idea that says, we live in a fallen world. And while we value the right to defend ourselves, it's regrettable. It's regrettable. This instrument that I have, this pistol, this rifle that I have for self-defense, it is regrettable that I feel that I must own this to defend my life and the lives of my family, versus I am glorying in this as a act of my masculinity. One of the advertisements of the guns used in the Sandy Hook shooting, for example, it said "man card reissued." Mm-hmm. A rifle doesn't make you a man. Right. It doesn't make you a man. Or the putting pro-life and pro-gun and pro-God all in the same sentence. You're elevating an instrument that exists because of the fall into something that is worth celebrating in and of itself. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about sort of a gun idolatry or a gun fetish.
David, we apologize. We got to get out. We're up against the clock. But always, it's a great pleasure to have you with us. The idea of gun idolatry or gun fetish is something that's in America, and we thank you for bringing that up.
So my sister and I, that's me, are into dominoes. There's this fancy domino TV show, and we are destined to be on that show. Uncle Ryan, though,
that's me,
has a hand that shakes like a jackhammer.
Okay.
The dude can't get 10 dominoes before his dreams come toppling down.
Luckily, there was one positive that came from my domino disaster. I'm about to use it as an analogy in our mortgage commercial. Buying a home right now can be hard. Bidding wars, lack of inventory, rates going up and down. It's easy to have your new home dreams toppled. At United Faith Mortgage, we can't easy fix those hurdles, but we are good at making the mortgage part awesome. We pay $1,000 of your closing costs on new home purchases. And we're an arm of a bigger company who is a direct lender. Our company uses its own money and there's no middleman, which often allows us to get you a better rate, saving monthly and lifelong money. We are United Faith Mortgage.
United Mortgage Corp, Melville, New York. MLS number 1330. Department of Banking. Mortgage Lender License number 22672.
Before I came to RPTS, I was a church planter and pastor for 22 years. And I found a lot of confusion about what really constitutes a church.
Dr. Barry York, president of RPTS.
We want, first and foremost, our ministers to know what a church is and what the church really needs. So how to develop the preaching ministry, why we practice the sacraments, how to properly care for God's people, and that you exercise proper oversight of them.
The church needs servants like you. Are you ready? Visit rpts.edu.
Reset for the 5 o'clock hour. Stay with us for Pittsburgh's Christian Talk. It's The Ride Home on 101.5 Word FM, WORD.
WORD-FM Pittsburgh. On your smart speaker by saying, play the word Pittsburgh. And on your phone via the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Joint Chief of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley says Ukraine is in a tough situation, but the U.S. will keep up military support.
Right now, there's a very, very significant battle going on in the Donbass. But Kyiv was protected and successfully defended against. The Russians had to shift their forces to the south in the Donbass. And we'll see how this plays out. But I think that the United States and the allied countries are providing a significant amount of support to Ukraine, and that will continue.
Milley spoke in the American cemetery of Colville-sur-Mer, overlooking Omaha Beach, as he commemorated the 78th anniversary of D-Day. On Wall Street, it's been up and down. The Dow currently is off 8 points, but the NASDAQ is ahead 28. This is SRN News.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Addiction is a disease that does not discriminate. At Recovery Centers of America, we see its impact on people from all walks of life. Every day, a mom or dad drinking too much every night, an athlete hiding a pill addiction, a healthcare professional or first responder dealing with work-related trauma through substance use, a young adult who started the party in college and hasn't been able to stop. In the past year, over 100,000 people in the U.S. died from overdoses, including many from our local community. If you're hearing this and you think you're different, that you have a habit and not an addiction, I want you to hear this message and challenge your relationship with alcohol and drugs. If you are struggling, there is a solution. We can help you today. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now. At Recovery Centers of America, we will answer your call 24/7. Many of us personally understand your pain, and we will work with you to determine the best treatment option that fits your needs. In our care, our medical and clinical experts will help you achieve recovery. Don't wait to get help. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
Drop your phones, grab your friends, and celebrate summer at Seneca Hills. For 86 years, Seneca Hills Bible Camp and Retreat Center is where families and churches have come to disconnect from daily distractions, to build friendships, grow in faith, and have tons of fun amid 250 acres of God's stunning creation. See all that Seneca Hills has to offer at SenecaHills.org. Camp sessions begin June 19th. Reserve now at SenecaHills.org.
If a super flexible schedule, great benefits, paid time off, and a signing bonus sound good, consider NAMS Transportation. NAMS has provided safe transportation to Northern Allegheny County and Pittsburgh seniors for over 40 years. Van drivers start at $17 an hour, sedan drivers at $14 an hour, plus a $2,000 signing bonus for part-time drivers and a $4,000 signing bonus for full-time. Must be 25 or older, no CDL required. Call 412-406-8611 today.
Considerable clouds expected for tonight with occasional rain and a thunderstorm towards dawn. We'll see a nighttime low of 63. Periods of rain and a thunderstorm tomorrow. Tomorrow's high 72. Tomorrow night an evening thunderstorm, otherwise mostly cloudy skies with a low of 60. Wednesday will be partly sunny. We'll reach a high Wednesday of 77. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm forecaster Drew Shannon.
Welcome to another edition of The Ride Home with John and Kathy, live from the Salem Pittsburgh studios. And now here are your hosts, John Hall and Kathy Emmons.
Joy and sadness in acute doses poured out today on the beaches of Normandy, France, as several dozen D-Day veterans, all now in their 90s, set foot on the sands that claimed so many of their colleagues. They are thankful for the gratitude and friendliness of the French toward them on June 6th, 1944, 78 years. But the sadness, though, comes as they think of the fallen comrades of another battle now being waged, a war in Europe for the first time in a long time, maybe 78 years. As the bright sun rose Monday over the wide band of sand at Omaha Beach, Charles Shea expressed the thoughts for his comrades who died on that beach 78 years ago. He says, "I've never forgotten them, and I know in some way that their families are connected with us as well." The 98-year-old Native American from Indian Island, Maine, took part in a ceremony near the beach in Saint Laurent. He now lives in Normandy. He was a 19-year-old U.S. Army medic when he landed on Omaha Beach on June 6th of 1944. He said he was especially sad to see war in Europe once again. Ukraine is a sad situation. My message to the younger generations is to be ever vigilant. Of course, I'd have to say that they will be protect the people's freedom that they have now. You will never forget being in the battle and the atrocities that you witnessed.
Where are you reading from, John?
I'm sorry, I'm reading from ABC News.
First of all, I can't imagine what it was like to be there at all that day. I can't even imagine that, being a medic.
No.
Trying to make some kind of holy sense out of that.
I mean, the only thing that comes close to that is the first 35 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. If you've never seen that, you need to watch that. I mean, the bravery of those men. I mean,
and kids.
Boys.
Think about what you were like when you were 19.
Oh, my gosh.
Christy, when you were 19.
I mean, to be in one of those things.
I can't tell you how infantile I was at the age of 19.
Right. Me.
And to think that the weight of the free world was upon the shoulders of people that age, it's shocking.
The United States and their allies, 170,000 guys coming on that beach.
Christy, what things were consuming you when you were 19?
I don't even know. I mean, like, you're just like so fresh out of high school and going into college.
Just farting around.
Yeah.
Right.
John, what was consuming you at 19?
I was doing a show.
Okay. I was very concerned about my boyfriend.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
that.
of course, right? Yeah.
Very concerned.
I'm sure a lot of these guys were consumed about their girlfriends as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you find yourself...
They're still 19.
Right. At the behest of history. And, your body was used as fodder to stop Hitler and the advance of the Japanese and all that. I mean, God bless those people, those guys. I mean, holy smokes.
I would love to go to Normandy.
Yeah, me too. And
I would love to do that.
I mean, these guys are in their 90s, and soon there will not be a World War II veteran alive who can recount that.
Right.
We do... And then, all this whole story, this AB News story, what's happening in Ukraine is just repeating itself in some way. And all those men and women who are fighting, God bless them all, because their homelands have been destroyed, their families decimated, millions of people on the move because of that, all the refugees.
And just like
what have we learned?
The situation of the Western world before World War I, thinking that, we had evolved beyond warfare. That we were...
War to end all wars.
Yeah, well, it was even before the war to end all wars. It was, we have achieved a certain level of intellectual prominence. We are studied, we are enlightened, we are educated, and now we don't need war. I mean, war was for people who were, uneducated, medieval people who lived on feudal land and had to do it. It's not for the modern world.
Would that be so?
And look what happened. We had World War I and World War II. But I felt that way when the war in Ukraine broke out. I thought to myself, I thought we were beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
You're never beyond it. You are never beyond it.
And what will happen when wars become even more automatic than they are now? I mean, now we're killing people by drones, so the battlefield will be. Here's
the thing:
so
we are killing people by drones. But the news stories that I read today, there is a lot of hand-to-hand combat going on in Ukraine right now.
In the streets.
Yep, there is.
Right.
And you think, how long has hand-to-hand combat been going on? What, 5,000 years?
As long as people have walked this earth, right? I mean, Adam and Eve. I mean. From that moment forward, probably, as long as people are people, right? Heaven help us.
Coming up on today's program, especially here in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about summer reading. Byron Borger from Hearts and Minds Bookstore is going to complete your summer reading list. We'll go to him next. If you missed any portion of today's program, just check out our podcast wherever you get your podcast, The Ride Home with John and Kathy. Also, later in the hour, does this make sense?
101.5 WORD.
Coming up on Love Worth Finding.
Life is like a voyage. Sometimes the sea is calm, but sometimes the sky darkens. Sometimes we find ourselves in the midst of a terrible storm. We're going to look and see what we can do, learn how to ride out the storm.
Hear Adrian Rogers' series, How to Weather the Storms of Life, this month on Love Worth Finding.
Tonight at 11 on 101.5 WORD.
Oh, my papa, to me you are so wonderful. Oh, my papa, to me you are so good. Hi, it's me, Marcia, from the Springhouse. I'm a little biased, but I think we 5 minor kids got the best dad around. Let's celebrate those special men in our lives with a Springhouse Father's Day steak fry and chicken barbecue. My brother Sam and his boys will crank up the barbecue pit outside and grill the chicken quarters and the New York strip steaks with our special Father's Day marinade. Come hungry for all the fixins to go with your steak or chicken hot off the pit. Top off the meal with a brownie or blondie, something to suit every dad's taste, or any of our other sweet creations. Of course, every dad is treated to a Springhouse ice cream cone, and we'll have live music all day too. Visit the calves out in the play area and plan to have a memory-making day on the farm at the Springhouse in 84 PA, 724-228-3339 or springhousemarket.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
The credit card debt happened when
when my daughter was born. I was using one credit card account to roll over into another credit card account, and it was snowballing.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-936-5496.
When I first called Trinity, the representative understood the need based on the situation. They were great people to work with. From the first phone call that I made, they had me on a track to mitigate the credit card debt.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
Working with Trinity gave me the ability to save thousands of dollars. My name's Doug, and thanks to Trinity, I'm debt-free for keeps.
Call Trinity at 1-800-936-5496. That's 1-800-936-5496.
I love seeing a transformation of a smile.
There's a reason patients love Dr. Megan Stock, voted Pittsburgh Trib's Best of the Best dentist in Northern Allegheny County for the second year in a row.
You don't have to do full mouth rehabilitation to really transform a patient's life, for a patient to be able to smile confidently and be happy with their own smile.
Exceptional dentistry meets compassionate care. Stock Family Dentistry, Perry Highway in Wexford, at stockfamilydentistry.com.
Reading anything?
We're completing a, 4 or 5 month project at our house. And it is really disturbing to me how little I have been reading, because there just always seems like something major I have to be doing.
Right.
But just yesterday, funny you should bring this up, and funny we're going to be talking to our friend Byron in a minute. Just yesterday, I thought, you know what? I think things are kind of settled enough that I think I'm going to pull out a book.
Good.
And I did, and I read at least 3 pages before I fell asleep.
Okay, good. Then you're like me. I can be an awful slow reader, because I'll read 3 pages and go, I gotta go to bed.
I'm
tired. Oh, yeah.
Grief.
Well, it is summer soon. It feels like
this
summer.
is the season for reading, to me.
Wouldn't it be nice to go to the beach and spend 6 months?
Is that an invitation for Christy and I?
I'm saying it would be very nice. And sit there to read your heart's content. Byron Borger is with us, along with his wife, Beth. They are owners of Hearts and Minds Bookstore in Dallastown, PA. Highly recommended. Byron, friend, welcome back.
Well, hi. I could use 6 months at the beach, man. That would be nice.
Whatever. I think everybody could use 6 months at the beach. Yeah.
I could do 6 days, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I don't have any time to read. I'm always skimming these other books to tell people about it on their newsletter, and then I want to read stuff I want to read, and I'm too tired. I fall asleep, just like you.
That's interesting. Okay, so you're skimming then, which is totally different than doing a deep dive, but you got to do what you got to do because people need to know what to read, yeah?
That's right. Sometimes, I read for a living, and so sometimes I got to skim stuff. I read the back covers. I look at the table of contents. I look at the footnotes, and I can tell somebody about it and see whether it's good or not, or worthwhile or not, or what kind of person it's useful for. And I do that all day, and I do that with dozens of things, and then I get hooked, and I want to read them more. And then I set them over by my bed and don't always get to them because new ones come the next day. It's both a benefit and a struggle of owning your own bookstore.
Yes.
It's like the kid in a candy shop.
I can imagine, Byron. Okay, but we brought you here because as summer gets underway, we know people are very hungry, and you've got your pulse on good literature out there, whether it's fiction, nonfiction. So can we go through sort of a few things that you were thinking about that are top of mind that we should read this summer?
Well, I can't wait to tell you, and I'll start with a few that are books about books. Then maybe I'll tell you about some novels and then some other favorites of mine. But let's start here. There's a book for parents, although I think anybody could enjoy it, really, that loves children. If you don't love children, then you got deeper problems than this. But if you know any children and you love children, there is a new book called Wild Things and Castles in the Sky, a guide to choosing the best books for children. It's edited by Leslie Bustard from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Her daughter, Carrie Bustard, who teaches in New York, and a woman named Thea Rosenberg. And these three women started out through blogging and some online writing that they do and some educational work that they do as teachers. They started corresponding with others and saying, tell me about a story when you read to a child or you gave a book to a kid. And tell me about that, why you did it, what did you choose, what worked? And they started getting so many essays from people that they had to about triple the size of the book. It's not immense, but it was going to just be a slim little thing to sort of inspire parents to read to kids. It is amazing. And they have chapters by dads, by moms, by a parent reading to a handicapped child, through grief, through joy, funny books. And then most people sort of give you lists, and their specialty is, I don't know, like fiction for kids or fantasy books for kids or poetry books for kids or like old classic picture books for kids. What are really the best, Dr. Seuss or whatever. And so every chapter is both sort of an inspiring story and a list of that author's favorite books. It is spectacular. There's a nice little foreword by Lucy Shaw, the poet. And so it's more than just lists. There are essays to inspire you and guide you, and there's something there for everybody. It's published by Square Halo Press, and I am thrilled.
Wow, it sounds really wonderful. So when you say kids, it runs the gamut from little kids all the way up to teens.
Absolutely. Read aloud books for older kids. Yep, absolutely. For discerning parents that both want quality, but also it's written out of a Christian sort of framework or orientation, so there's a bit of discernment about what's appropriate and good and healthy. It's not strict. It's wise about good education and just a delight. You guys would love it, I'm sure.
Wow, sounds invaluable. Because I think, one of the reasons we love you, Byron, is because you're doing the work ahead of us. And so many people are kind of going, I'd love to have something for my kids, but I'm not sure what's out there. And, young adult things have gotten kind of weird lately. So it's good to have a sort of like, a shortcut.
Yeah, and this book it really is worth having. It's a gem. It's done the work for us, but it's more than just lists. There are books like that out there, and I find them almost overwhelming. Just these lists, like I don't care, but they tell you why these books are good, which ones are good. They tell you a story about it. It's fun.
Excellent. Hey, we should say that as Byron talks about books and gives his recommendations, Kath is working diligently, and she will post these recommendations on our Facebook page, The Ride Home on Facebook. So if you miss something, you can go there, and Kath is going to fill in the blanks. Okay, Byron, that's a great way to start with the recommendations. Take us someplace else.
Another book about kind of why we read and how we read, but this also includes movies and film and stories. It is a book called Imagining Our Neighbors as Ourselves. The subtitle is How Art Shapes Empathy. It's written by a friend of ours named Mary McCampbell. Mary is from the Deep South. Her family knew Elvis, for crying out loud.
What?
So she loves pop culture, but also she's a literature professor. And she is convinced that reading well changes our hearts in terms of empathy. And that's a pretty documented theme. And she shows why Christians, who are supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves, can imagine how to do that when we immerse ourselves in stories. So she's got classic novels. She's got contemporary novels. She's got shows like, I don't know, Better Call Saul. I mean, amazing dramas on television and pop music, too, like Sufjan Stevens or whatever. So she guides us through how narrative, how stories, and particularly books, can imagine ourselves as being better neighbors to our neighbors. So it's the first chapter is a Bible study on the Good Samaritan story about who is my neighbor, and then it goes on and shows how these stories can do this for us. Another book I want to say, just on the heels of that, by the way, is a person who she interviews.
Hey Byron, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you. Give me the title of that book again. Imagining what?
Imagining Our Neighbors as Ourselves.
Okay, got it.
It's on Fortress Press.
Okay.
Hardback. Yep. Now, a book that she mentions that wasn't even out when she wrote her book, that just came out this past month, is called Reading Black Books.
Yeah, we had Claude on the show here.
Did you have Claude on the show?
Yeah,
what a
he's
guy.
so terrific.
Yep, how African-American literature can make our faith more whole and just. He's friends with Mary, and what a good guy. He's a pastor of Church of the Resurrection in Charlottesville. But that's a really good guide. I gave it to a guy when it first came out, who you may know, and he's a really good reader and an astute Christian leader. And he said, I just didn't know most of these books. Like, I heard of them. And this guide to, like, what they're about and why you should read them and what you're supposed to get out of them, he said, it really set my reading agenda for the summer. That's exactly what he said. Excellent. So this could do that for you. Introduce you to novels and writings from James Baldwin to, people that you've heard of but maybe haven't read.
Outstanding. Boy, really, out of the gate, 3 strong recommendations, Byron. They sort of run the gamut of children's books or essays about the culture and reading Black books as well. This is excellent. And so you sort of pointed us in a big direction here as a lot to take in. But if you bought any of the 3 that you just first talked about, you would go deeper into a more thorough conversation, whether it's for kids or for race or just the culture as a whole.
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay.
And since we brought up this question of race and children, there is a new book, and I don't know if you've had this woman on the show, but man, you could. Her name is Helen Lee, L-E-E, Asian-American woman that works for InterVarsity Press, one of my favorite publishing houses out near Chicago. She has a brand new book on Waterbrook, a book that's the publishing house, a book called The Race-Wise Family.
Oh, yeah.
10 postures to becoming households of healing and hope. Helen loves books, loves literature, works for a publishing house. Her co-author on this is Michelle Amy Reyes, R-E-Y-E-S, Amy Reyes. And so Michelle and Helen put their heads together as moms who have a passion for racial justice concerns, are evangelical Christians, the kind of folks your audience would really trust. And Helen is a gem. She wrote an earlier book called The Missional Mom, which I liked a lot. But this Race-Wise Family just came out, and it's a way to help raise children of whatever your ethnicity or background is to be more kind of aware of God's delight in the multicultural colors of our family and world, and some of the problems we have and why we need healing and hope. So it's a vision for racial engagement.
Fabulous.
For families.
The book is on my desk right now. The ask has already been made. And Byron, you bring up a good point. I mean, whether it's reading Black books or the Race-Wise Family, the conversation is so, I think for a lot of people, fraught with emotion and fear. So it's good to have a guide to go along and sort of, break down those barriers.
Yep. And these women are fine guides. I trust them a lot. I really do.
Excellent. Keep rolling, Byron.
Well, here's a couple novels. If we're making the case that reading widely and reading stories can give us more empathy and stuff, here's just a couple we like. I think I've mentioned these 2 before, but let me just say it. My wife adored these, by the way. There's a novelist named Patti Callahan. She wrote Becoming Mrs. Lewis, which is a novel, a fictionalization of the woman that married C.S. Lewis, what Joy Davidson might have been like. So it's a fictional romance theology story. And, man, you really do learn a lot. And for those of us that know a little bit about C.S. Lewis and his wife, who died early in her life, Joy, it's really true. This book really gets it right as historical fiction. So it's theological, it's romantic, it's a story of a woman and her meeting C.S. Lewis, but it's through the eyes of Joy Davidman. Now, the next one Patti Callahan wrote is Once Upon a Wardrobe, which is, again, a fictional imagination of how C.S. Lewis came to imagine the story of the wardrobe. So I think anybody that really likes Lewis's sort of nonfiction would love Becoming Mrs. Lewis. Anybody that likes his Narnia stories and his children's fantasy stuff, this Once Upon a Wardrobe, it's a gem. Really fun novel. Made up, but based on true stuff.
I love it. That's really interesting. People are amazing, aren't they? I mean, they'll take something like C.S. Lewis or the Narnia series and sort of twist it and turn it and make it their own and show us a whole other dimension of the story.
Yep.
It's fabulous.
Historical fiction can do that too, and then you always wonder: is that really true? To the author to add that in, and it's fun to see that. Hey, here's another story that is it is mind blowing. It is so good. It is so well written, designed for young people, young adults. That we sell it more to adults, and again, it is sort of creative nonfiction because it's basically this guy's story. I might have mentioned it here before. Everything sad is untrue.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about this book, Byron.
Was it Everything Sad is Untrue?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It is by Daniel Nayeri, Nayeri, Daniel Nayeri, whose mother was part of the underground church in Iran, under persecution, had to flee. He fled through Europe and eventually ended up in the United States, and a refugee family took he and his family in, and he ends up being a boy in Oklahoma from Persia. And he's in all-white Oklahoma, and they want to know who are you? What's your life like? And he starts telling stories almost like 1,001 Nights. That's what Persians do. They tell stories. And he is telling stories to his classmates in this novel that is based on his true story. And so it's interesting. It's a novel, and the title is Everything Sad is Untrue. And then in parentheses, it says, a true story. And so we don't know where to put it. Do you put it under? We always argue about this, so whether it goes under adult fiction or kids fiction, or whether it goes under autobiography, because it really is. Daniel's been to the Jubilee Conference in Pittsburgh. He went to Tim Keller's church in New York. He's a growing known voice in adult fiction, in a young adult fiction, like teen fiction. This is probably written for middle school kids, but it's won 1 million prizes. And I think I mentioned it the last time we were together, and I just wanted to see if you picked it up yet. So you really got to get this book. It's
Excellent.
a gem.
Very good. We're talking with Byron Borger from Hearts and Minds Bookstore in Dallastown, PA. Byron's giving us a good list of summer reading. We need to step away for just a minute, but Byron will continue to stay with us. We hope you do as well. And Kath is making a list of all the recommendations that Byron is giving us, posting that as we speak on Facebook, on our Ride Home Facebook page, so you don't lose any information. Be right back.
My dad is one of my favorite people of all time. Sometimes my eyes feel rolly when he's giving advice, but I've learned more from Dad than anyone, like how saving a few pennies here and there can often be a big deal down the road. One of my favorite dad lessons was, if you're staying at a hotel and you can't see your car from your window, you probably paid too much. It's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage, and the mountaintop of my job is when we get to save good people, like Word FM listeners, some life-changing pennies. It's why we're so proud to have our direct lender advantage. Our team is an arm of a bigger company who is a direct lender. Our company uses its own money within its own walls, and there's no middleman. For you, this often allows us to get you a better rate, saving you monthly and lifelong money on new home purchases or refinances. If you'd like to chat, you could find me and Dad at UnitedFaithMortgage.com.
We pay $1,000 a year closing costs on new home purchases.
United Mortgage Corp, Melville, New York. MLS number 1330. Department of Banking. Mortgage Lender License number 22672.
If you belong to a club, I think it's fair to presuppose that the effort of joining that club and then showing up for whatever the activities or events were, that you were in line with the mission statement of the club. You think?
Club, organization, team,
church,
whatever that is,
school.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went to a Christian college, wherever you are in your walk, in some ways you would have to presuppose that the large majority of people around you were Christians and had some form of a relationship with Jesus. Now, having that said and done, I would think that it would give you a freeing aspect in your life. Is that fair to say?
You would feel secure in that, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I think that's probably true, but I also think that as much as you're looking for that in other people, you would have to be bringing that yourself to the table.
Your faith.
Your faith.
Your relationship.
Your relationship.
Your boldness.
And your willingness to share it with somebody else. Be in communion, look for a significant relationship.
I believe that happens daily at Grove City College. Look online at gcc.edu. Grove City College, Christ-centered.
Listen on your smart speaker at wordfm.com, the Word FM app, iHeart, TuneIn, and on Odyssey. In your car or at home, too, at 101.5 WORD-FM, Pittsburgh.
Age-related macular degeneration is a leading cause of blindness in people over 55. But with treatment, it can be slowed down, stopped, and in some cases reversed. Make sure you see your grandchildren grow. Protect your vision by requesting information about diagnosing and treating AMD. Call the Foundation Fighting Blindness today at 1-800-BLINDNESS for a free packet on reversing or managing AMD. Or go to the website fightblindness.org, where I found so much helpful information. Or again, call 1-800-BLINDNESS today.
Considerable clouds expected for tonight with occasional rain and a thunderstorm towards dawn. We'll see a nighttime low of 63. Periods of rain and a thunderstorm tomorrow. Tomorrow's high 72. Tomorrow night an evening thunderstorm, otherwise mostly cloudy skies with a low of 60. Wednesday will be partly sunny. We'll reach a high Wednesday of 77. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm forecaster Drew Shannon.
Talking books, summer reading with Byron Borger from Hearts and Minds Bookstore in Dallastown, PA. I mean, nobody reads like Byron, and he's here to give us a list of things that you can read and enjoy this summer. Byron, we always want to make sure that you have enough time, so hold forth, please.
Okay, we are going to tell you now about a novel that is brand new. It is called The Book of Susan. It is a novel set in Appalachia. It is published by a new imprint called Raven Books. It's actually owned by Paraclete, a nice Christian publishing house up in New England. And this particular book by Melanie Hutsell, Hutsell, is a person who has bipolar disorder. And she, as a Christian, is struggling with this stuff, and she decides to write a novel about it. So it is a novel about a college professor. Susan Huffman is her name in the story. And I won't tell you much. I just started it myself, but she's been on track for tenure, and she's a woman who's lived by her mind, and now she's starting to sort of say things that don't comport with reality, and people wonder if she's hearing visions and what's going on. And it is about God's relationship with this woman with this mental disorder who's a brilliant but Appalachian college professor. The Book of Susan. It's a novel that is really compulsively readable, a page-turner. If you like a little drama and a little psychological stuff going on, and some grace and redemption through it all, I think it's a good story.
Terrific. Sounds really good. Yeah, The Book of Susan.
Another story that is really good, and summer we sometimes think of fun stuff and so forth, but not all novels have to be cheery and goofy. This is it's not intense, but it is sort of a serious story. It's called Feathers of Hope by Sharon Garlow Brown. She wrote a whole series of novels. Maybe you've had her in the air. A series of novels about spiritual direction. And her series is called Sensible Shoes. And every novel is about a group of women that meet on a retreat center, Protestant, evangelical, Catholic. They're different kinds of women, but they're all on this journey, and they decide to each take up this practice of finding a spiritual director, and they become sort of soul friends, if you will. The last one she did was about a kid that was hurting and mentally disturbed and ends up in a monastery that her aunt's running. And this is sort of an ongoing story of that. Feathers of Hope, the story about a girl named Wren, and her great aunt Catherine Rhodes is in the story, and they're coping with sorrow and finding hope in the middle of their spiritual lives. So it's a very unique novel in that it isn't about just simple conversions in the evangelical sense. It's about this sort of deeper texture of your interior life. So for people that like Henry Nouwen and that kind of stuff, this is sort of a novel based on that kind of a world of the inner interior life of spiritual contemplation and how it intersects and helps people who are hurting. Feathers of Hope. It's a brand new novel. Yep.
That sounds very interesting. Excellent. All right.
Well, speaking of summertime, can I tell you about this one? I think this is, I don't know if I've said this before. It came out about a year ago. But one of my favorite evangelical writers, really good wordsmith, is a guy named Mark Buchanan. He wrote a book on Sabbath called The Rest of God that was just tremendous. He has one about seasons of your faith. This one is called God Walk. 2 words, God Walk. It is literally about walking. The subtitle is Walking as a Spiritual Practice. And some of us are just not able to go do runs, anymore, and we don't go to the gym that much now anymore with COVID and stuff. But getting out and walking, what a blessing that can be, both for your body and your soul and your observation of things. This is, one reviewer called it a literary masterpiece written in prose full of energy and light. It really is a fresh book. It's a fun book. It's a clever book. And this guy he's sly, but he's a genius. I mean, he really is. He writes kind of whimsically at times, but it is about the spirituality and what he calls moving at the speed of your soul. So we need to slow down, and we can learn to do that, in fact, by going on walks. So it's a book about walking. There you go.
Wow,
Who
that's
knew?
that looks like it has garnered a lot of very high ratings. That's very interesting. We had Mark on the show one time.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we talked about. I believe it was an article he might have written for CT. But anyway, the new book looks really interesting. God Walk, Moving at the Speed of Your Soul.
Very nice. Byron Borger's with us. We're talking books. Hearts and Minds Bookstore in Dallastown, PA.
Please open Facebook. Go to the Ride Home with John and Kathy. You'll see the graphic we always put up when Byron joins us on the show, and all of the books are listed underneath.
Very nice. Go, Brian. What else you got?
Well, there's a series of books talking about this sort of spirituality stuff by James Bryan Smith.
Mm-hmm.
The Good and Beautiful God, The Good and Beautiful Life, The Good and Beautiful Community. And that was always a trilogy. They're reflective, kind of a cross between Richard Foster and Dallas Willard, not as intellectual as Dallas Willard, but not as mystical as Foster. But it's in that contemplative sort of mood, helping people see the transformation Christ can bring in our inner lives. Well, there's now a fourth one in that series, so it's no longer a trilogy. It's called The Good and Beautiful You. It is discovering the person that Jesus created you to be. I don't know about you guys. You probably had people in the air like this, but there seems to be a heck of a lot of books coming out these days, like every week, on identity, on who you are in Christ, who you were meant to be, what the Enneagram says you're supposed to be. I mean, like, there's just dozens of these books about self. And it almost worries me a little bit. So then I thought, okay, James Bryan Smith is utterly trustworthy. If he's doing a book on kind of the spirituality of the self and the transforming of who the true self really is meant to be, I'm going to trust him. So this book just came out as a beautiful flower in the front. I haven't even opened the cover yet. It's that new, but it's the fourth in that Good and Beautiful series, and they're all really nice. You got to slow down to read them. There's contemplative sort of exercises in them. So I think it'd be nice to read through in the summer when you're sitting out and the deck or something and just calm and do these reflections that he offers and read a little bit about finding who you were really meant to be.
Outstanding. Very nice. Byron, we got time for two more books. Choose wisely.
Oh, man, drum roll. I wanted to tell you about The Discerning Life by Stephen Matcha, but I don't have time for that. Or Anne Boskamp's Waymaker, which is beautifully written. I think if I only have time for two, I'm going to say this. The Life We're Looking For by our friend Andy Crouch.
Oh, okay.
Relationship in a technological world. It is ruminations, reflections, eloquent and insightful. He's really a smart guy.
Yes.
On technology and social media. He's done some simple books about the kind of tech-wise life, and this is sort of pushing back the deeper stuff that framed what he has written before about technology. This book made me weep. There's some stories in it that are spectacular, and there's some really good insights. The Life We're Looking For by Andy Crouch about relationships instead of just technology.
Excellent.
And then I'll have time just to shout out one last one. I just wrote about this in our Book Notes blog. It's called The Gift of Disillusionment by Peter Greer and Chris Horst, both friends of ours. They work for Hope International, which is microfinancing around the globe. And they interviewed a lot of their co-workers and people they heard about from all over the world who had been idealistic, who had been starters of nonprofits, who had done good work. And then the idealism didn't last, and disillusionment set in. And what do you do when you begin to hit that wall and growing cynical and tired and weary? And they develop ways to find hope for leaders particularly, but I think for anyone. The subtitle is Enduring Hope for Leaders After Idealism Fades.
Wow. Sounds fabulous.
Well, that sounds really good.
Lots of great stories, lots of good hard stuff, and lots of good signs of hope of what we can do to kind of get through the disillusionment and find godly hope.
Excellent. Byron Borger from Hearts and Minds Bookstore, Dallastown, PA. Byron, before you leave us, take a minute and talk about Hearts and Minds.
About almost 39, going on 40 years ago, we left Pittsburgh and started a bookstore in South Central Pennsylvania, and we have a website called heartsandmindsbooks.com. All of our inventory isn't listed because we're just an old-fashioned mom-and-pop bricks-and-mortar store. There aren't many of those around anymore. But we're a real bookstore, but we do Book Notes, which is a newsletter where I review all kind of books, left, right, and center, all kind of things that we think thoughtful Christians should care about. So we used to work for the CCO out in Pittsburgh, and now we're out here as booksellers just below York, PA, and we love you guys at Word FM.
Fabulous. Love you right back.
We love you back.
I mean,
Thank
the resources you
Byron.
provide, the book notes, heartsandmindsbooks.com. Yeah?
Yep.
Very nice. Byron Borger, Hearts and Minds Books, highly recommended. Kath has taken all of Byron's recommendations, posted them on our Facebook page. We would encourage you to be part of Hearts and Minds Books. Check out the book notes first, buy from them, go there, do the excellent work that Byron and Beth are doing at Hearts and Minds Books.
101.5 WORD.
This week on Truth for Life, marriage is in the spotlight. What should someone look for in a potential spouse? Is it better to stay single? We'll find out about God's purpose for marriage, as well as many of the benefits and challenges. That's our focus on Truth for Life with Alistair Begg.
Truth for Life with Alistair Begg. Tomorrow morning at 6 on 101.5 WORD.
As you know, our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. Now, Mike didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Now, Mike has done it again by introducing his My Slippers. For a limited time, you'll save $90 on a pair of My Slippers. And now this blowout sale of the year will not last, so order now. Mike has taken over 2 years to develop these slippers. My Slippers are designed to wear indoors and out all day long, so they're super comfy. Made with MyPillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue for your feet. Made also with quality leather suede. These are MyPillow slippers at their best. Call 1-800-391-0954. Use the promo code WORD or go to MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener square. Use promo code WORD. Now, the offer is not going to last long, so order now with promo code WORD at MyPillow.com. 1-800-391-0954. Use the promo code WORD.
Year after year, it's the same routine. Drop off the taxes, pick up the taxes, leave a check. Maybe it's time to work with a business CPA who is less transactional and more relational. From Mike Radich and the team at MGR CPA and Consultants, it's about more than crunching the numbers. It's about getting the advice you need for complex tax issues and business solutions. It's just a better return. MGR CPA and Consultants. Honesty, integrity, always. At mgrcpa.com.
Hi, this is Bob Lepine. I hope you're benefiting from listening to Truth for Life with Alistair Begg. Our daily program comes to you by way of your fellow listeners called Truth Partners. It's their monthly giving that cares for the cost of distributing Alistair's teaching to local stations like this one. So today, will you pass their generosity forward? Will you become a Truth Partner and help bring the gospel to others? Sign up at truthforlife.org/truthpartner.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Does this make sense?
Does what make sense?
Anchovies.
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, first of all, I will never put anchovies on a pizza.
No way. I'm with you on that.
I mean, but anchovies in a salad, like a Caesar salad, spot on. 100%. So they have their place. I know people who love anchovies on a pizza, though. But that's just seems too much for me.
That's so much.
Yeah. It's super salty. Anchovies, yes and no.
No.
Yeah.
Come on. Does this make sense?
Yes, anchovies make sense. 100%. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. Do they make sense to you?
Yes. And here's the thing, John. I'm with you about the pizza. Definitely with you on the Caesar salad. I feel like there's a taste spot that the anchovy gets to that, I don't think anything else really does. Not only does it make sense, I might say the anchovy is essential.
What? Essential?
I feel that strongly about it.
Really?
Just for what it is,
Because it's strong. It's a strong taste.
Super important.
Hits you hard. Boom. It's on par with a caper.
Caper, delicious. Caper is much less intrusive than the anchovy.
Yes,
The anchovy makes itself known.
But equally, well, let's let that be. All right, does this make sense?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The bow tie. Now, I know that you were out Saturday.
I was.
At a black tie affair.
My husband was wearing one.
Men wearing bow ties.
All the men were wearing them.
Now, you see men, not at a black tie, but like a guy wearing a bow tie. It's a very strong statement. It's not for the faint of heart, the bow tie, is it?
You have to have a certain personality type to step into that.
I agree.
Unless you're at the prom.
Right, where everyone's wearing a bow tie. Me personally, I'm not wearing a bow tie.
Ever. So you don't think the bow tie makes sense?
I've worn bow ties as sort of a novelty, but
like in a role you were playing on the stage?
Yeah, at an audition or to show up for a fun event, to get a cheap laugh. Haha, bow tie. But as a fashion thing, that's not happening.
What about at your wedding?
I didn't wear a bow tie at my wedding. No.
That's not a ridiculous question to ask.
No, I wore an
You act like this is a preposterous idea. A lot of people do wear bow ties at their wedding.
I wore an orange tie at my wedding.
An orange tie?
Yeah, but not a bow tie.
Because of the University of Tennessee? I mean, what was the link there?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Bow ties don't make sense. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. They look terrific. Yeah. You should change your mind.
Maybe if you're on cable TV. I don't know.
Oh, who's wearing a bow tie on cable TV?
The word around town is that Pittsburgh homeowners are choosing doing it right when it comes to their roofing, siding, and remodeling projects.
That's because since 1984, Doing It Right roofing, siding, remodeling continues to set the bar through clear communication and an installation that's second to none.
Doing It Right employs only the most experienced professionals to install and oversee your project.
They'll stop at nothing to ensure your satisfaction, doing business honestly, taking no money down and no payment until the job is complete.
Doing It Right will ensure all work is installed to the industry's highest standards, then back it all up with their lifetime workmanship warranty.
As a prestigious multi-award-winning Owens Corning Platinum contractor, as well as a VSI certified installation contractor, you can't go wrong with Doing It Right.
Mention John and Kathy for a discount off your estimate.
Call 724-NEW-ROOF for a free project evaluation or visit roofingcontractorpittsburgh.com.
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. It's really frustrating to deal with out-of-pocket medical expenses, watching your hard-earned dollars just flying out the window. Well, here's something that can really help, and it's worth taking a minute to look into. Medi-Share has a new option called Medi-Share 65 Plus. Medi-Share is a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it really is a community. People encourage and pray for each other. And Medi-Share 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B that fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. You can lock in one low monthly price for up to 10 years. It's great for peace of mind. You can use your Medicare-approved doctor and get prescription savings, dental and vision savings. Very worth looking into, and it's so easy to find out why people rave about the customer service at Medi-Share. They're great to talk to on the phone. Here's the number. Call 855-PSALM-32. That's 855-PSALM-32. 855-PSALM-32.
Hi, this is Bob Lepine. I hope you're benefiting from listening to Truth for Life with Alistair Begg. Our daily program comes to you by way of your fellow listeners called Truth Partners. It's their monthly giving that cares for the cost of distributing Alistair's teaching to local stations like this one. So today, will you pass their generosity forward? Will you become a Truth Partner and help bring the gospel to others? Sign up at truthforlife.org/truthpartner.
Junk sleep got you down? The sleep experts at Mattress Firm can help. Get a king bed for a queen price and save up to $500 off during the best Memorial Day sale ever. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying purchase.
Ask Alexa to play the word Pittsburgh to hear us there. We're on your Google speaker too, plus iHeart, TuneIn, and on Odyssey. 101.5 WORD-FM, Pittsburgh.
Especially since COVID, there's been a renewed emphasis on the mental health of children. Kids who've been forced to study from home, whether they're in kindergarten or whether they're in college, it has taken its toll. And so there's been a lot of studying done and pieces written about how to, in spite of being closeted due to COVID or, stuck because you are in a situation where your family member has COVID or whatever it is, how can you maintain your mental health? Well, I saw a story today that talked particularly about mental health outcomes in kids. And the number one determining factor in those kids who performed well, they played team sports.
I saw that.
Okay. So, John, I want to ask you, how old were you when you played your first team sport?
Probably 7.
And what were you playing? Wiffle ball?
Baseball.
Okay.
I mean, like organized.
T-ball.
Like on the street, always. I mean, I probably was 6 but like organized with the uniform and coaches, probably 7.
Okay. And how long did you do that?
Little League, through high school.
All the way through high school?
Yeah.
Christy, did you do team sports?
I did.
What did you play?
Softball, basketball, soccer.
Nice.
Yeah. And band.
Starting when?
Probably when I was around 5.
Up till?
I stopped playing soccer or softball and basketball in like 8th grade.
Okay.
Soccer, I think I played maybe a couple years in high school.
Nice.
Okay.
Fabulous.
I never played any team sport.
Didn't you?
In the complete length
doesn't
of my
surprise
life.
me. You don't like to sweat.
Shut it.
You don't like to sweat.
I work out every day.
Well, that's a new thing.
Yeah, it is a new thing.
Okay.
According to Fox, so that could explain.
Why was that? Why is that?
Because I was bad at everything.
You were not a sports person
No,
at
I
all?
was bad at everything.
Like you throw you a ball, you can't catch a ball.
Bad. I mean, I can catch a ball, but I'm not good at it. I'm not good at any sport.
It's unusual to meet someone who's like not good in any sport.
I'm happy
unusual.
to expand your worldview.
I mean,
sitting in front of you, someone who's bad at every sport.
Look at my Wait a second. I just want to say this. It's on radio, but my chair is real small today.
I noticed that. Why are you so short? It's like your chair's collapsed.
I'm tiny.
Like, look, my chair's like 10 inches taller than
I know.
yours. What's happened?
Sid Dithers. I'm tiny.
You're like a turtle.
I don't know what happened. Anyway.
According to Fox News, children and adolescents who participated in team sports have fewer mental health difficulties compared to kids who didn't. But children who participated only in individual sports had worse mental health outcomes compared to those who don't play any sports.
I can understand why.
That's right.
I mean,
Okay, so they categorized about 12,000 participants, so it's a good amount of study material, ages 9 to 13. And examples of team sports they looked at were volleyball, soccer, basketball. Example of individual sports were gymnastics, tennis, or wrestling. Okay. So previous research suggests participation in organized sports can protect against mental health difficulties, but other studies have linked sports participation to worse mental health outcomes, which of course seems to say that if you are involved in, I think, anything that has to do with a team, it has to expand your mind. It has to make you consider other things. It has to force you to consider the people around you, and that would change how you look at stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a good coach on a good team can change your life. A bad coach with a bad team can change your life. I mean, my last coach that I ever had, playing sports, this guy, he made me crazy. And made it difficult. You would kind of like dread going to practice and to games.
Yeah, sure.
But that was my first experience all that time with a bad coach. Before that time, you always had good, really good guys who were invested in you, were teachers, were kind, were pushing you a little, to go to a higher level. But a bad coach, boy, that makes all the difference.
I think there are a lot of links and similarities between what you're saying, John, about sports and my experience growing up in music. Because if you're doing band, like Christy brought up, or you're doing choir, whatever it is, you have to value the team production over your individual thing. Yep. And it does teach you to think differently about it, right? I think music and sports are super similar in that way. Another way,
a little less sweaty.
Well, yeah, that's true. But another thing I often think of is that I think it teaches you, and this is one of the problems that officials are having with parents right now in this generation, is that it teaches you to accept criticism and to be able to judge where you are in the pecking order. So whatever team you were on, did you know where you were?
100%.
Right, of course.
100%.
Okay, whatever band I've ever been in, whatever choir I've ever been in, I can tell you exactly who's better than me, who's worse than me. And I think That's part of healthy development.
Unless you're the worst.
What if you're the worst?
If you're the worst.
I was the
then-
worst on every sports team I ever did, which was in gym, which wasn't an actual sports team because I was bad at everything. But that's not horrible. That didn't ruin me for
No,
life.
but you know what I mean. If you're the kid who always gets picked last.
That was me.
That's the worst.
Always last in gym. Everybody, okay, let's pick basketball teams.
No
At the very end.
Yeah.
Kathy.
That girl doesn't want to sweat down there in the corner.
It's not that I didn't want to sweat.
I
I was
mean,
bad at everything. But that didn't wreck my life,
Well,
being picked last. I mean,
No.
it's not great, but it didn't wreck my life. And that when you get into whatever your thing is, then I think that pecking or figuring out who's better than you is good because it gives you something to shoot for or something to it puts some value on the ability that you have and the ability that people have around you.
But like as far as sports, I was a middling athlete.
Right.
I wasn't great.
And I was a middling musician.
Wasn't horrible. Wasn't great. But
Right.
I sure heckin' enjoyed it. It was so
and
much
so did I.
fun. I loved it so much.
But it wasn't bad to be middling, right?
No, it was good to be.
It was
middling.
part of. Christy, were you middling or were you good? Or bad?
I was usually one of the best.
Oh, good.
Not to brag, but
No, you-
no, she's bragging.
I very much enjoy winning, so I will play my heart out.
What did you play?
Softball, basketball,
Yeah.
soccer.
And in the band, what did you play?
Oh, flute.
Killing it on the flute. Right?
Oh, I learned the flute in 2 weeks. I started with clarinet.
What the heck?
You know why? Because she likes to win.
I do.
I don't know. I mean, is this a thing now? Or are kids like disconnecting from sports? No, I don't think so, right?
I think a lot of kids don't like to lose. And I think a lot of kids don't like to be criticized, whether it's in the music world or the
Yeah.
sports world. And the only way you're going to get better
Tough luck, Buttercup.
is
Let's
if
go.
you
Suck
hear
it
it.
up. Let's go. Right? It's not for the faint of heart, is it?
No, it shouldn't be for the faint.
Well, we ran the gamut today. Not for the faint of heart
Exhausted.
as well. Guns, books, poetry. We missed the shoe story. Maybe that's tomorrow. Thanks for being with us.
Ride Home with John and Kathy, a production of Salem Media Group.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Americans trust in